Hey everyone, in this video we will learn how to read data from Excel tables with Power Automate, and this is a very common use case because many companies and many people love Excel. So if you know how to read data from tables with Power Automate, you have a great tool in your hands to streamline processes and increase productivity in your organization. So as you can see, I already started a new flow in Power Automate, and before we start to build this flow, let's quickly check the Excel table that I prepared for this video. So this is a pretty straightforward table. This table represents a list of issues reported by the residents of an apartment building. We have columns like the issue ID, the unique identifier. We also have the description of the issue experienced by these residents. We also have the name of the person who reported the issue, their phone number, the type of the issue that they are reporting, and when this problem was reported. So the idea of this video is to read all of these records from the Excel table with Power Automate. And not only that, but also try to read some individual records. So for example, how can I access this issue with the ID number 3? Or even try to access only some filtered records. So for example, only the issues reported by Gabriel Diaz, or only the issues that has a type equals to other. So before we come back to Power Automate and start to build our flow, I just need to highlight that this data is organized into a table format. And I know that many people use Excel without actually formatting their data as a table, but it's really important to do it if you want to integrate your data into Power Automate. I'm telling you this because Power Automate works great with Excel tables, but not that nice with data located in ranges that are not formatted as tables. And if you don't know how to create tables in Excel, that's pretty simple. Let me simply copy this data here just to showcase to you. I'll add here a few headers really quickly. And to identify if you have a table or not, you can simply click anywhere into that range. So for example, if I click here in my original data, you may notice this table design tab. That means that this data is already organized as a table. If I click anywhere into this table, I will still see this table design tab. But if I click anywhere out of this table, I won't see that anymore. So here, for example, between the rows 14 and 18, if I click anywhere over there, I don't see at this point the table design tab, but I can format that as a table by simply selecting all of the range of this data, including the headers, and then I can come to format as a table here into the style section from the home tab. You can select any formats here, you can change that later, and then you can simply click OK, keeping this my table has headers checkbox checked. So once you do that, you can see that now I can see this table design tab, which I cannot see out of this table. And here into the table design, you can change a few configurations. You can change the style if you want. You can change the table name. For example, our original data is allocated in this table called table 1. We can change that to something more meaningful like issues. And yeah, that's how you create a table in Excel. And now this data can be easily read by Power Automate. So let's jump back to our flow. And here we'll add a new action. This action is called list rows present in a table. This is from the Excel Online connector. And this action will retrieve all of the records from a given Excel table. So we first need to specify where is this table located. It means which is the file that contains this table. And you start by selecting the SharePoint site or your OneDrive if you are allocating your file over there. I will select this SharePoint site, the Digital Mail Community, then the document library where this file is located, in my case documents, and then you can click under this folder to navigate until your Excel file. In my case, I have it right here. And then once you select the file, this drop down for the table input will be populated with all of the available tables for this file. In my case, I have only 2 tables. I have the table issues and also the table 4, which is that table that I created just to showcase how can you format some data as a table in Excel. I will select the issues, and at this point, we can save our flow. The flow is saved, so I will open the flow main page into another tab. And let's run it. So I click on run, and then continue. Run the flow, and here we can see that this Excel action retrieved all of the records from the Excel file. If I come here to the show raw outputs, I can see those records. They are organized under this value property. Here you can see that surrounded by this curly brackets, we have each of the records. So for this first one, we have issue number 1, Gabriel Diaz. It is a plumbing issue. If you come back to the Excel file, you can see that this is the first record, that's correct. Same thing for the fourth one, so the issue with the ID number 4 is from Monica. So if we just scroll down a little, we can see that the issue number 4 is reported by Monica. So we can access those records individually. If I come back to the editor flow page, I can add another action here. And the ideal action to loop all of the records retrieved by a list rows present in a table action is the apply to each. So you can simply type here, and then select the apply to each. It expects only one input. This input is the list that you want to loop. If you simply click over here and then into this lightning, you can see the available dynamic contents. One of them is this body value property. It is a list of items, and in this case is a list of the records retrieved by Power Automate from the Excel table. So that's okay, we are already looping this Excel file, but we are not doing anything within this loop. So let's add a simple action inside that. Let's click here to add an additional action, and then I'll simply use a compose. And the idea is just to print any result from this apply to each loop for each of the interactions. And I will print, for this case, the name of the person that reported the issue. So I can select here any of these properties from the table in the dynamic content, and I'll select this person name. And that's fine. Let's save the flow now, and I can come back to the flow run page to resubmit this flow run. So the flow run was resubmitted. It took 2 seconds to include the apply to each step. And here, if we click inside the compose, we can see the outputs here. We have the first person that reported the issue, the name of them. And we also have here an arrow to move to the next iteration. If we move it, we will see the name of the second person that reported an issue. Same thing for the third, the fourth, and the 51. So we are not done yet. Let's make some changes into this flow just to capture a few more information. We could do the same thing for the other properties from each of these records, but let's now try to access an individual record instead of accessing all of the records from the Excel table. So let's come back to our flow edit page, and here let's add another action. This action is called get a row. It's also from the Excel Online Business Connector. Simply select that. And here we have pretty much the same input fields for identifying the file where the table is located, but we also have a few other input fields here, like the key column and the key value. So let's quickly populate it. I'll select the digital community. And then for the table, once we select it, this key column drop down will be populated with the columns available in that same table. The key column is basically the column that contains the unique identifier that we will use for this action. Since we are returning an individual row rather than all of the rows from our Excel table, we need to specify what we will be using as this unique identifier. And for our specific case, the issue column is the best one to use as a unique identifier. Let's simply click over there. And then for the key value, we'll have to pass where is the value that we are using to filter this table. We could pass any dynamic content here, but for this case, I'll just pass any ID that we have into our table. So just select 3, for example. That's fine. I'll save the flow now. And then let's come back to the flow run. Let's resubmit it. Now our flow ran successfully. And here in the get a row action, if we select it, and then we go to the row outputs, we can see that we will receive all of the informations from an individual record. In this case, the record with the issue equals to 3. So that's how you access an individual record from your Excel table. But you also have another hypothesis, which is basically when we access all of the records that match a specific filter condition. So for example, I want to access all of the issues reported by this Gabriel Diaz. We have 2 in this case. If you come back here, you can see that the issues with the number 1 and issue number 3, both are reported by him. So if you come back to the edit flow page, we can achieve that with this list rows present in a table action, and I will simply do that rather than creating a new action for it. Here in the advanced parameters, we have a few options. One of them is this filter query, and we can use this filter query to limit the data retrieved by Power Automate. So let's select it, and here it is asking for an all data filter query, and that's the same formatting for basically all of the actions in Power Automate. So we use that for Excel, for SharePoint, for Dataverse, for SQL, and any other actions where you are retrieving a list of records from any data source. So this OData filter query, it follows a default syntax where the first value that you need to pass is the name of the property that you want to filter. In this case, the name of the column from the Excel table. We are using for that the person name. And you need to make sure to use the proper casing for all of the letters in the name of this property. So in our case, the person starts with capital P and name with capital N, and you need to keep this convention because otherwise your flow run will fail. Right after the name of the property, we need to pass the comparison operator, which in this case can be something like equals, not equals to, greater than, or lower than. And for our case, since we are trying to retrieve all of the records where the person name is equals to Gabriel Diaz, we just need to use this equality operator. And for the OData filter queries, it is simply written as EQ. So just put like that. And after that, we can finally pass the value that we want to use as a filter for this operation, which in this case is Gabriel Diaz. As we are working with a text value, we need to surround this data with single quotes. So we just put it over here. And one last thing to keep in mind is that these filter queries are case sensitive. So for example, we are searching for any records in our Excel table that contains this person name equals to Gabriel Diaz with capital G and capital D into the person name column. So if we change it, for example, to Gabriel Diaz with lowercase g, you would receive an empty list because you don't have any records with Gabriel Diaz with lower g into our table. So let's change it back to capital G. Let's save this flow. Let's now come back to the flow run page and resubmit it again. The flow runs successfully. If we expand the list row presence in a table action and the row outputs, we can see that now we have only two records here. We have the issue number 1 and the issue number 3. Both records have the person name equals to Gabriel Diaz. And if you come to our apply to each, we'll have now only 2 iterations where the compose, since we are returning the value from the person name, will match to Gabriel Diaz only. So those are the basic operations when it comes to read data from Excel tables with Power Automate. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. See you in the next video.